and sit down.
Right, I think it's recording anyway. We recorded for a minute, so let's just get on with it. Right, okay.
Hi, welcome back to the Some Assembly Required podcast. As you can see, I'm on this side this time, so I don't know what's going on, to be honest.
I can never do camera left and right. It's that one.
I don't know whether that meant that I had to do the introduction or whether that's how it goes. Or
It was literally how I added you into the software, to be honest.
Yeah, okay. I thought it meant something.
We could do that. Maybe we could do that. Whoever's on that side can introduce the podcast. That sounds like a good idea.
But then you get to choose every time because it's your software. If you don't feel like doing it,
maybe we'll
just whack me on the side.
Maybe we'll just alternate it then. Have it different ones.
So episode 4.
Already?
4. We are. A New Hope, even.
The best film, not. Episode 6 will be the best film.
That's the title for this week's one. A New Hope.
But anyways, how you been, Rich? Been good?
Yeah, not bad. As look, people won't realise this because of when we normally put it out, but it is it's Sunday evening my time, Sunday morning your time. We normally record this a couple of days earlier, so
I've had to get up early for this. On a Sunday.
Is it early? What is it? 8:45 your time?
It's 8:45. I completely overslept. So it's all good.
I'll tell you that what's happened is I was waiting for a particular phone call on Friday, which meant that I just basically had to wait by the phone when we would normally be recording this. So I couldn't do it. I couldn't commit to it. Put it that way. And then on Saturday morning, I had football with the boy. He scored his first goal ever.
Whoop, whoop.
For the club. I'm super happy. That was
You're putting him into the Euros now, or not the Euros? Obviously, you can't do that. The World Cup.
Oh, he'll make the England side, no problems now.
It's not hard, is it? Technically, wouldn't it be the Scotland side?
Yeah, probably.
I wonder if he could actually get in.
My partner's English.
Oh yeah, okay. But that means you can choose either. Because how it works is you can literally choose whoever you want. So I mean, I don't know whether you'd want the Scotland side, but to be honest, you don't want the England one either. So
I don't think we're going to go anywhere near the UK at the moment, to be honest. But hey, that's another day. But yes, I was super proud, man. I was. He latched onto a long. Oh man, I'm not going to take you through it, but he latched onto a long ball and he pumped it home, and I was like, yes. Anyway, it was a very emotional morning for me. 8:30 on Saturday morning. Then on Saturday, because it was my daughter's birthday last week. She turns 5, so she starts school tomorrow my time, and then Joshua's birthday is coming Wednesday, so we had a party on Saturday for them as well. And it's one of those exercise disguised as fun places. It's one of those big trampolining joints. I don't know if you've got them over there. Those big, it's like a warehouse full of trampolines, and you expel half your energy just getting to the other side of the place. But no, they were having a great time. So, and then today,
better than having PlayStations, I suppose.
yeah, exactly. And to bring it back to Lego today, I was at a school fundraiser all day, so I was displaying some sets. Hence, well, we'll get onto this later as well, but it's looking rather empty behind me at the moment.
So what were you doing displaying sets then? Just like displaying just what your collection, or?
Yeah, well, there was a bunch of mocks. I'm not someone who's very good at creating mocks, but I've got quite a decent collection. So today I took the whole Ninjago City Gardens docks thing with the Destiny's Bounty and a couple of other things, which always looks good on a table. And I just took some TV movie themed stuff. So that's why all my Jurassic World and Ghostbusters stuff is all missing. There's the
and I suppose if it's like a fundraiser and the people that are going aren't necessarily into Lego anyway, they won't really maybe even know of these sets. So
no, and
them all the time.
Even the kids seeing them. Most of the sets are probably older than half the kids that were in there. So look, it's always worth having a few sets to display. I mean, I go there and try to make videos as well if there's anything worth recording, etc. Yeah. But it's all about making money for the school. So they put on a big feed. There's all sorts of side things getting sold and stuff like that to raise money. So no, it was a good day. It was a good day. But I only got back about an hour ago, and then we did the giveaway for the channel, the Ewok Village. So
Ewok Village.
It's gone. It's done.
Yeah, I don't think I've won.
No, I would have told
you. Typical. It's all right. I've already got one anyway. But
you have. What about yourself, man? How's your week been and weekend?
Yeah, I've been struggling with hay fever. I'm probably sound about 3 octaves higher, or like nasally today. It's just been so warm with the hay fever and things. But other than that, it's been fine. Just back to busy work now. It's a lot busier than it was before, so you can't really dedicate as much time to Lego really. But if you can see behind me, I'm trying to change stuff up a little bit as well. I'm looking at getting some new. We talked about IKEA and how you shouldn't buy it, but I'm looking at buying some new IKEA shelving units to put along here to have more on display. Because I really struggle up here with display with the not being able to put any shelves up. So I think I'm going to get some bigger bookcases and hopefully try and fit them in as best as possible, or even maybe lob the top off the back so they can go in a bit more. I don't know.
Or actually put them on an angle, cut them on an angle to get them in.
Yeah. Potentially,
it would be worth doing. It'd be worth doing, or you get, certain high ones and then half size ones, so you can make them too deep or something like that.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking.
This is something that we may as well talk about, because I always, I find the whole displaying Lego thing fascinating. I find it very hard to display at times, and look, we'll get onto it in a second. But as you can see, I'm changing mine up again behind me.
Yeah, so I think what you're saying, I think the idea I've actually come up with is I found I can't remember, I think it's called Besta, the shelving unit. But what they do is they have a half thickness one as well. So I measured up to the top, and actually it could fit in with the angle. So you can have the one that's half up to the top there, and then have the deeper one at the bottom. So I might do that and see how they look, because they're only, I think they're £15 each anyway for quite a big shelving bit. So I thought, well, might as well see how it works, get a couple. If it works, then do the whole lot. I was thinking of just blitzing through and just having a load. So when you come, because there's stairs just behind this, when you come up, you'd see the big sets, and I think it could look quite cool. But yeah, I struggle, man. I struggle with displaying stuff, and I think I'm trying to now think of displaying all of my geek stuff together, not just the Lego room. So I've actually got which way am I going? That way. I've actually got some He-Man Masters of the Universe down here.
Oh, nice. Are they OG ones? Are they original ones? Are they?
They're not original. No, they've just come out with them. They're based on the originals, so they're so they're a lot cheaper than trying to get hold of the original He-Man stuff. But yeah, so I've been thinking, because I bought a few. Like I said, I bought a few vintage Star Wars sets and stuff like that. So I want to kind of display them together. So maybe 10-4 Lego set, and then underneath will be a 10-4 vintage collection scene or something. Just to kind of mingle all the geek stuff together. But it is really hard to display Lego, because with us, you just buy so much that it doesn't have any breathing room, does it, around it? I've seen your collection behind you. You've got
the shelves. You end up filling the shelves up, you mentioned, you used the right word. I've never used the word, but when you mentioned it, I'm like, that's right. You sort of want to curate something.
Yeah.
Rather than just being, hey, here's my Lego, look at it. See what you can make out of it. Actually have, I think space is important in between things, if that makes sense. Too much 100%. Space looks sparse. Like the way mine's looking at the moment, it's looking pretty sparse because half the stuff's not there. And let me tell you a story. I have to tell you a story, because I bought these after we recorded last week.
Oh, okay.
We haven't talked about me. No. So what? There's a story behind. So they're IKEA Billy bookcases, of course.
Yeah.
And I went out, and there was one place in Auckland selling them. There's usually 2 or 3, but there was only one place on the weekend that I, of course, wanted to buy them. I paid $200 each, so that's £100 for each bookcase. I don't know how much you guys pay for them, but
I felt that
was quite a lot.
Yeah,
that's quite pricey. But mind you, we've got to, boat them over here to New Zealand, so from that side of the world, so I can appreciate maybe that's why it's added a bit on. But anyway, so I went out, bought these things, 6.
Oh, you don't want to know how much they are here.
I reckon about £30.
Yeah, £35.
Yeah. That's like 70 New Zealand dollars. We've got $130 markup. Yeah, it's a lot. So anyway, I was like, oh, these things are bloody heavy. They are fairly weighty. So put 6 of them in the car. I drive like a Subaru station wagon. Well, actually, it's the partner's car. Subaru station wagon for you Brits. So I got them in there, and I couldn't see out the side. It was absolutely hammering it down with rain. It was one of these days I just knew something wasn't going to go right. Anyway, this was quite far. This is the other side of town as well, up the north of Auckland. And so I turned out of the car park, and then I noticed immediately that one of the lights on the dash came on, the battery light. And I'm like, oh, okay. then the airbag light, then the handbrake light, then the engine light. Then all the dials went to 0.
Oh no!
Car's still going, like there's nothing wrong, but the dash display tells me otherwise. So anyway, I'm miles away on a motorway. I pull over, turn it off, turn it back on. It's still doing the same thing. But anyway, it turns out I killed the power supply in the car. I don't know whether it was because of the weight. I don't think it was. I think it was just a bit of a coincidence. But
yeah,
it turned what would have been quite an easy sort of thing to do into quite a not scary, but quite a hard-mouth mission. Stressful mission. It shouldn't have been stressful. So I've been putting these together all week. It has taken me so long to do it.
People don't realize how long it takes to put Billy bookshelves and stuff together. It does take. You always think, oh, I'm just going to get a load of them. It'll be fine. It won't take long to hammer up each one. It takes ages.
Really you've got to have the space as well. The space is the other thing, man.
That's the mission in here. That's the mission in here. If I've got them, where am I going to put them? Like, where am I going to put them to actually put them up? It's a mission.
See, I'm sort of like, because I always hated on this side, I had that wooden wall and I hated it. It created this really dark sort of space there. So I always wanted to, and it may even look a bit overkill with all these bookcases in here, but heck, I've got tons of space to store my Lego now. So
it looks good for the setup where we can see as well. Whether it looks good in the room, like you say, but like in the
well, the camera is going to be slightly over the side a little bit with my new light as well. I bought one of those big ring lights, like I was just showing you before. You can just see it down there, one of those Elgato ring lights. So I'll be using that, and I'll have my floodlights for live streaming for the build. But I mean, I'm excited. It's just cleaner,
Yeah, I've noticed with what you've put up at the moment, is that curated then? Have you been looking at that stuff and thinking, I'm going to have this here, or have you kind of?
No, kind of, because on this side here, to my left, you can see the 1989 Batmobile there. So below that, I had the Ecto-1. Above it, I had the Tumbler. I've got the Monkey Kid mech in that space up there. What I'm really into the whole thing about making the gaps above the tallest part of the set roughly the same. I don't know if this is an OCD thing, but to me that's a real eye-catching thing.
It makes it look like the shelving was built for it then as well, doesn't it? Like it was like perfectly built for that. Because that's
I'm the kind of person who would go, oh, do you know what? That doesn't, even if I like that particular set, I'm the kind of person go, nah, that doesn't fit that space. Break it down. Let's get something out that will fit that space. That's my, that's me.
It's like these original bookshelves I had over here. I prefer these ones because what I did was these, you've got the pegs where you can change the height. The other ones I had, they're just literally 3 shelves that are fixed in. You can't change them. So, like you say, then you can change it around. So like you said, my R2D2 just fits in. This is too much. There's too much going on here, but my R2 does just fit in at least. But it's really annoying when you're trying to fit the stuff in and then it's like, oh, that one doesn't fit. Or my Batmobile won't fit up here at all, I don't think. It might fit on one of these shelves, actually. I didn't think about that. But yeah, I've got mine downstairs on this massive shelf that just looks ridiculous. So that set's a unique setting in and of itself because it's very long and not very deep. So it's like you got to find somewhere.
No, but then again, if you can get it in a Billy bookshelf, you can adjust the shelves, to make it look right and make it look all proportioned, with what's above it and what's below it,
So I was interested. I was looking because I've seen a lot of your Star Wars ships there, and your R2D2 and your R4. Is it called R4D5?
R5. R5.
That's it. I always get those 2 numbers wrong. They look awesome there, and you've got your TIE Fighter and your Slave One. You've got your sail barge. But what I've seen that I always find hard to display, which I can't see you've got there, is an X-Wing. I always find them hard to display, X-Wings.
No, do you know what I use for X-Wings to display them? I'll always put 2 on a shelf because they need to be this, because aesthetics. They won't look good next to anything else. But I use those as a 1x2 by 5 high clear bricks.
Okay.
And I put them on a little minifig stand, so they're 3x4 tile with the studs down the center.
Yeah, I know
what I'm talking about. The mini, So the clear thing on that, and there's usually 2 anti-studs on the bottom. Yeah, that sort of thing. 2 anti-studs on the bottom. I'll get a white one though because the shelves are white.
Yeah.
Then that clear brick, and then there's usually you can find the balancing point underneath, and then you can have them sitting there with their wings open.
But I still find them an awkward shape. I still think they're an awkward shape though because
they've got facing forward. I think they look quite good actually.
They're long though. They're very long, but then Yeah, they're just an awkward shape. I always find to display them.
Something I'm looking forward to, and this is. We've talked in the past a couple of times. We've talked about it privately as well, about how I store my minifigs and how many people would be too happy with the way in which I store my minifigs. But what I want to do as well, and I think you might have mentioned it before, is get the have a set up on there and then have the minifigs as well and display them with the minifigs, because it is a big part of the set a lot of the time. And so I just want to get into.
If you have a look at
make it look like a
Brick
shop display, I guess.
Yeah, I know the Wicked Brick stuff you can't get over there, or it's quite expensive. But if you look at how they display it, they usually do have it with the minifigs on the set, which does look quite cool how they do it. But yeah, I've got because obviously I've got now coming up to 700 Lego Star Wars minifigs, and I just don't feel they look as good as it should look with them all together, because it's just a bit of just a collage of color. Whereas I think they may look better, like you say, cutting them down. I might just start displaying them. I mean, I want to get more of this series before I want to do this anyway, but I might start displaying them in terms of here are the Rebels, and have it with the Rebel ships, and here are the, here's the Clone Wars sets, and have it with a gunship or something, try and, like you say, create it with a set or two. So, but I think that's the great thing with, isn't it, with displaying stuff, you do something, you go, bored of that now.
I'm never happy with it. No. I'm never happy with it. That's the thing. I'm always... And I always have the dumping area, which is usually the shelf above here, because you can never see it. And I just dump all my crap up there. But right at the moment, because I've just changed this area here, there's another bookshelf here, as I've got my Mos Eisley here at the moment, all spread out and opened up, which kind of looks cool. And I'm like, but
my Mos Eisley's on the floor over here somewhere at the moment. Literally, these are my
stuff on the floor, but I had it clear before, and I'm like, wow, there's room in here.
So what's happened is that all this stuff around here is literally stuff that was around the house, because we've been basically blitzing the house this weekend and trying to make it all nice again. People are coming around again after COVID, so we've been doing a load of. And I was talking to Steph about having new cabinets, and she said, "Well, you're not doing that again. You always spend on doing upstairs, and we never do the rest of the house." I was like, "Okay, we'll do this first, and then." So at the moment, my room's becoming a dumping ground until I can then get these shelving units, which I might go after work.
Yeah, but at £35 a blinking bookshelf, you've got nothing to moan about, have you?
Not too bad at all. Not too bad at all.
Mine's a significant outlay,
I could probably do this whole side of the room for about £100 or something. That's with no shelves. The ones that but I have to buy the shelves separately. But
so mine just cost just to do mine cost about £600.
Yeah.
That's what it cost me. So it was six bookshelves.
And I think what's so weird, and we were on about this before, what's so weird is you think to yourself and go, I could have bought 2 big Lego sets for that, or 5. But then it's well, where are you going to put them? Our brains want to buy the Lego with the money, but we have nowhere to display them.
That's a really interesting point, because you do, and I was talking to someone about this today at the show as well, is that, someone went, oh, I bet that would have cost a bit, when they were talking about the shelves. I was like, yeah. And you go, well, and the thing, but here's the thing, is I would even, I don't and over buying Lego, let's be honest. I go, yeah, sure, if you have my money, I'll take that for sure, absolutely no problems. But I still feel like I'm spending a lot of money I shouldn't. I guess I feel guilty. I have that sort of regret of spending big money on sets sometimes. But 6 bookcases over $1,000 New Zealand. Yeah, whatevs, man. But that's eating into that Lego budget of that set that I think is too expensive. There's the war that goes on inside my head is absolutely mental.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, mine's been fighting for other stuff now. Like I said, I started getting He-Man stuff as well, just randomly. I think I was watching, and I started off with, I don't know if you've got it there, but on Netflix, there's a show called The Toys That Made Us.
Absolutely. One of my favorite things that came out in the last couple of years. There's been some really cool things on that.
Yeah, and I started watching it because the first one is Star Wars. And like I said, I've been getting into the vintage Star Wars stuff anyway, so I'd watched that one. I was interested in the Kenner and the whole thing around it. And then I watched the He-Man one, and just the story is so good. And I remembered, so I was like, I don't mean the story of He-Man, I mean the story of He-Man, as in how it came to be. The fact that they were basically trying to make a toy to compete with Star Wars. It's
right. That's right. Brilliant. And it's mental. I mean, how much sort of what's the word I'm trying to use? how shoestring it was. I mean, not necessarily the budget, but the whole like thought process over things. Like they got one guy to draw and they didn't like what he did or so. I can't remember the exact ins and outs, but I remember it just being like,
well, literally they made it, but they didn't want it to be Star Wars, so they made it really random. And then they were trying to flog it to toy stores, and they basically the toy executives were going, "These look cool. What's the story? Why are kids going to buy it?" And they're literally the guy out of the randomest thing goes, "Oh, didn't you know we're going to include a comic book with it?" and then they were, "Oh, great!" And then apparently they did that with the second toy company, and then the first one was Toys R Us at the time, and they'd sold an order of them, and then apparently the Toys R Us were like, "Oh yeah, they're great. They like the comic book idea," and then they went, "But you've said that this is going to be for 5 to 10-year-olds. 5 to 10-year-olds don't read comics." And then they were like. So then they were like, "Oh no, what we're going to do, did I not tell you, we're going to do an animated show." And they literally, because the budget was no object for Mattel, because they're massive, they then employed Filmation to make a show. And Filmation they just made it. The Filmation literally said, "We'll make it, but we won't base it on the toys. We'll just..."
I loved He-Man as a kid as well, man. Yeah. But when you look back at some of the names of those characters as well, you're like, what the hell were they thinking?
Merman.
Yeah, what were they thinking?
Merman, Beastman, He-Man. It's just like, okay. Some of them are hilarious, like Man-at-Arms. And
Man-at-Arms. Yeah, there were some weird ones, wasn't there?
the funniest one, the Evil Witch. The Evil Witch is called Evil Lynn. That's her name. Like
that's right.
It's terrible.
But there was didn't they outsource the castle or something like that, and then they didn't like the way the castle was.
No, they didn't outsource it. They didn't outsource it because it was like a group of small designers that got together and made it. When they're making Castle Grayskull, in fact, I've got the new version of it right here. Sadly, I'm a loser. When they made that, apparently it was too. They made it too like perfect, and the guys didn't like it. They wanted it. So
and then the other guy came along and decided to do it himself.
Yeah, he did it himself, but the door was
too small.
Yeah, it's just honestly, if you guys haven't watched the Toys That Made Us, watch the Star Wars one and the He-Man one. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's brilliant. The Star Wars one was super interesting as well, wasn't it? That was super interesting. You know, the fact that they just didn't know what they were getting themselves into. They just had no clue.
The best thing with the Star Wars one was the fact that, because basically no one would buy the rights to Star Wars toys, weirdly. You think about that now and you go, what? Why would no one want it? But it's the fact that they brought the film out in, I think it was March or May, and they expected to have toys ready by December for Christmas, which was just never going to happen. It was never going to happen. And the ballsy thing that Kenner did was, I don't know if you know this, because I wasn't around at the time, I know you weren't around at the time, but what they did was, because they didn't have the toys ready for Christmas, they actually gave kids a cardboard cutout of the toys saying, "This will be ready for you, you've bought these toys." And they didn't get them to like March the next year. And kids were happy with that. They wanted them so badly that they were happy. Well, hey. Imagine that as a kid, you open, you've got, "Oh, I'm going to get my Star Wars toys, Mum." And you get this receipt, I owe you 4 Star Wars figures. Like, what?
Love, Grandma.
But do you think nowadays we're all like moaning about like, "Oh, which set should we buy?" You know, especially for kids, you've got a budget. "Oh, you know, we're going to buy them a £200. Can we afford a £200 set to buy them? Or can we get you know, maybe it's an action figure, or maybe it's a Furby." There's so much collection nowadays that you can get. But obviously back then, it was a lot more, honed in.
But was that because we were that little and we had tunnel vision as to what we wanted? I think
it was an easier time as well. Though, don't forget, like there were no video games really back then. There was, toys weren't.
My Commodore 64 suggests otherwise with the tape games.
Yeah, okay, they were there, but I remember I had a Sega Mega Drive when it first came out, but there wasn't a massive games or even game stores that sold the games. My mum could never buy the games. It was literally, I was like always hunting for games because there was never like a game store where you could buy them like there is now, or like just click digital download and it's, "Oh, I'll go make a coffee whilst Ratchet and Clank downloads." There's none of that. So I think there was more of an kids played with action figures so they could spend more money on the action figures as well, and mass produce them, I suppose. But Yeah.
I guess as well that, I mean, I don't know if this was unique to my situation because, I mean, I think I've told you this before, but I lived on a little island on the west coast of Scotland until I was 11 years old. So the toy store was the upstairs section of this general store next to some carpet store. That's what I recall anyway. But I do remember going up the stairs in this store and seeing the wall or the rack of Star Wars figures, and I'm going through and having a look at all the cards and all that sort of stuff. I could have spent hours just looking at the damn things.
Well, this is what I used to do.
These days I don't even look. I just buy, buy now.
It's like Tesco's when I was a kid. Like my mum used to always go food shopping, and so why do you want to come? Because they had a toy aisle, and I would literally just look through the toy aisle. Like I never bought anything, but you just used to look at it, and it was like wasn't there?
Are you old enough to remember the catalogs?
Oh,
the big thick catalogs.
I do vaguely remember the catalogs. And then Toys R Us used to have one. Toys R Us. Yeah, no,
I'm not talking about the toy. I'm talking about the massive department store.
Oh,
not Argos. This is pre-Argos, man. I'm trying to remember the name.
No, the one I remember is the Argos catalog. We used to always get the Argos catalog. That's what I'm remembering. Which
I remember like spending huge chunks of my childhood looking at not even, but just looking at the toys at the back of this catalog. The toy section was at the back. Look, the women's underwear section was the general stuff. Toys, yes. Ours.
This is only last year.
Like centerfold sort of stuff, But like the what was it? The space monorail, man. Whoa, that was eye candy back in those days. But that was something I would honestly sit there and just look at, going one day.
I mean, that's an interesting point you put there because I always get a lot of questions when I do the Asking It's and stuff, saying like, "What was your favorite set growing up as a kid?" And I never really bought Lego. It wasn't something
I didn't own my favorite set,
but also at the same time, I don't think Lego really had sets, if that makes sense. So you did have the monorails, the set that looked fantastic, but a lot of the time I always remember when I had Lego, it was just, I don't know whether it was my mum that didn't know and they didn't advertise it that well, but I just had bricks. Like, you used to be able to just buy like a random tub of bricks.
Oh, yeah, no, I remember. I remember a few of my sets. Like I have a couple of, look, I mean, I'm guarantee I can't, because I remember we had quite a lot of Lego, but I remember specific sets that I had, and we're going back 35 years, man. I can remember that grey spaceship with the black weird sort of corner pieces that were made this sort of weird bit of the thing with the wings, and it came into into three pieces, like I remember all that. I remember my brother had this other blue and white space thing that the front thing came off and it dropped this thing on. Like I remember all these details about them, and I've seen them since, and they're very nostalgic.
I don't remember I mean, I wasn't massive. I'm being honest, like I said, I've always said this, I was never massively into it as a kid. I was more of an action figure person. I remember I was, like I said, the Toys That Made Us really did bring back nostalgia of me growing up, because I always remember I had He-Man very briefly because it was kind of dying out when I was a kid. Then I had Thundercats. I had the Ghostbusters, the Kenner Ghostbusters stuff with the Ghostbusters house, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then it went on to Power Rangers, and then I kind of grew up a little bit by then. But like,
I had Ninja Turtles. Ninja Turtles I had,
yeah, but I never really.
Did you remember Mask?
Yeah, the Mask toys as well. They were pretty.
G.I. Joe was another one I really got into.
I never bought G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe.
Yeah, G.I. Joe is massive. Yeah, G.I. Joe is huge. When you look at these adult collectors and you see they usually always have a G.I. Joe section, like with these the mini ones though, like the 3/4 inch figures, and they like bases and tanks and shit. It looks amazing.
It's just plastic, carnivorous plastic. I mean, of course, but Lego's
the same. No, it's not.
It is, and it's the same, but it's different. Like I feel that it's different because hey, I could be creative with Lego, as if I'm creative with Lego. I put this together. Yeah. I follow the instructions.
Yeah, and it's the same with me. I don't really mark. I know people do. I think that's the potential difference with Lego. Like I say, with other toy collecting, it's either you buy it on card mint, or you buy it loose, and you maybe like display your figures or whatever, put them in poses. But they're the kind of your big collectors. With Lego, there's different types of the collectors, isn't there? There's people that build, people that use it to mark. There's like a community around it, so it's slightly different, I suppose. But
if you were to start a new collection, because we've discussed this as well sometimes as well, but if you were to start a new collection today and clean slate, you didn't have any Lego, you didn't have anything there, you didn't have any collection at all, and you had a budget. I'm not going to give you a budget, but let's not say it's stupid. You're not going to start collecting Lamborghinis, but like what would you start collecting? What would you want to collect if you did it all again?
Oh, it would definitely still be Star Wars. Star Wars got me into it, and Star Wars will probably get me out of it as well, if that makes sense. Like, if the Star Wars sets start being rubbish, I'll probably go out of it again. Because that's what happened before. It got to like 2015.
Or you're bankrupt.
Well, yeah. But like 2015 sets for Star Wars, I just didn't appeal to me personally. And once I stopped betting one, I just kind of like, and you kind of just went into your dark age for a bit.
I'm sort of. There was a point there where I thought, you know what, I could quite easily buy every new Star Wars set that comes out now. Like we're talking Lego, of course. I could buy every new set that comes out now and keep up with it quite happily if I didn't buy any other themes. But there's no hope in getting all of it going back. So no. I do wonder there's no point in me collecting all of it now. We've talked about this, in previous episodes even. Like, some of these new sets that are coming out are only really coming out, you're only going to want one minifig out of them. Am I going to... Does it spark joy? To quote that famous Netflix.
What's he called?
I can't remember what it was called.
I know the one you're on about. The one that does the tidy.
They get rid of your stuff TV show. That's all I know. Well, I'd never ever let my partner watch it because I'd be scared at what she does. Actually, the scariest thing is she sells all my Lego for what I told her I pay for it. That's the scariest part of all this.
Oh, that is not good.
But no. But does the Mandalorian throne spark joy? No, it doesn't. No. Moff Gideon's cruiser sparks joy.
Oh, well, I don't know what it sparked joy, but I don't know if... I know you didn't see the Lego count, and we'll get onto that in a second, but they've actually changed the name of Boba Fett's ship.
I know where you're going with it. I saw.
I mean, that is ridiculous. It's no longer called the Slave One because, slave, you can't have that in a name of a ship. So it's now called... What I think is really funny is that I don't know if this is Lego or Disney or what, but it's called Boba Fett's Starship. I read a
headline that said Disney asked them to change it. That's the headline I read.
But the thing is that it's not really it is a starship, I suppose, but it's supposed to be a cargo ship. Really, that's what the Slave One is.
I thought it was like an ex police ship, wasn't it?
I have no idea what the Slave One. I know that, for instance, I know, for instance, like obviously the Millennium Falcon. It's not really a fighter plane. It's supposed to be. It's a freighter. It's not meant for that stuff. And just calling it Starship just sounds so. We don't really know what it is, so we'll just call it Starship. Like
they don't even use the word Starship in Star Wars.
No, it's like calling. It's like saying we don't like the word lightsaber anymore. Can you call it Luke's laser sword, please? It's kind of like that mentality. Like a starship's like almost like a knockoff name for something out of Star Wars.
It's like the Lippin.
Yeah, it's just
feels like Lippin.
I mean,
I don't know.
I think Disney personally take one step forward, two steps back. Like they've literally almost lost the community at quite a few opportunities recently, and they've brought it back with the likes of Bad Batch and Mandalorian, and now they're doing these things that really, irks the fans that have been fans of this thing for 40 years, like by changing the name of Slave One.
I've seen some larger characters in the Lego community, online Lego community, support the change, supporting any company that's bold enough to remove the word slave from any of their text. Are we just old men that wish it was like it was meant to be, or is this PC gone mad?
No, I think this is PC gone mad, personally. I'm very into the whole PC stuff. I completely get it. I completely understand. But it's history. And it's not the fact that this ship is anything to do with slaves. That's not what the ship is. It's just called the Slave One. It's like you could say it for anything. You could say, for instance, we're going to change the name of Rebels Ghost now because actually Ghost can be considered offensive if someone's grandma's died recently. So we're not going to call it Ghost anymore. So we're just going to call it, now it's going to be called, I don't know, Rebels Starship, and everything's just going to be called the Rebel, it's something Starship. It's going to lose all names. We're not going to have Millennium Falcon anymore because the Millenniums are now getting older as a group of people, and so we're now going to call it the Boomer Falcon because that's the one it represents. Like,
not to mention the word Falcon. We don't want to upset Falcons neither.
So it's now going to be called the Boomer Starship. Like, it's just silly. Personally, it gets to a point where it's not a word that it's not an offensive word. It's not an offensive word. I'm sorry, it's not an offensive word. There are certain words that are very offensive, and I understand that.
Yeah, the whole thing around slave Leia, the scantily, and I can understand why you wouldn't want to portray someone who is being held captive,
completely
clad. I completely understand that, but changing the name of a ship
is ludicrous. Let's put it this way. Let's put it this way.
Swear words offend people. What if you had a ship that was named with a slight swear word in it? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
For instance,
we're next. The Death Star next will be the thing that you're not allowed to have.
Because that's death in it. Yeah,
because it's got death in it. It's a killing thing.
We're not going to call her Moaning Myrtle anymore because moaning is considered an inoffensive term, so we're going to change it. Do you know what I mean? There's just stuff like that. Oh, nearly headless Nick. We don't want to represent headlessness anymore in the community, so he's just going to be called Nick.
We don't want to promote headlessness.
It just can get...
For all our headless fans, we don't want to offend you.
But, I just think, to be honest, it's a bit silly. Because if you're talking about that, for instance, The Phantom Menace isn't that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Anakin's a slave. And it mentions it in the show. He is a slave. His mum is a slave. They were born into slavery. And it's the whole, what are you going to do? Completely remove that section of the film? Because there is slave Anakin. He is in slave robes. That is the whole point. But he isn't provocatively with a boob tube on or something. And that's the difference with the old Leia stuff. I get that. It's very sexualized. In fact, I've read Carrie Fisher's autobiography of the fact that she was a young girl in probably a pretty bad position at the time. And I think what they did with it is horrendous. But that's to do with that costume. She's very sexualized. It's a children's movie. I get it. But to change the name of the Slave One, I think is just ridiculous. It's an iconic name. It's an iconic name. That's it. It's just I never even considered it. When they said it, I never even considered it. Why?
No, I didn't. I would never have considered it neither. So which makes me. Well, I'm almost on tenterhooks for what's going to be next.
The next one will be TIE Fighter because they might consider it a racial slur.
Mate, let us know in the comments what you think is next to be cancelled and why. I want to hear some of these because, we don't want to tie anyone up.
Yeah,
we don't like fighting, so TIE Fighter, we can't have that.
Yeah,
X-wing.
Yeah.
Whoa, that sounds a bit too much like Triple X. Sounds sexy. Can't have that. The 60 wing, you can't have that.
I just think that, like I said, it's politics gone mad. I think and I think Disney are really struggling at the moment. And I really personally now don't think they should have bought the license. I don't think they understand the right or respect the license enough to have bought it. And I think
what about Plo Koon?
Yeah,
you can't say that word.
No.
you can't say that word. He's a character. You can't say that.
Yeah. Chewbacca. It sounds like he's chewing tobacco. So maybe we should change his name.
chewing tobacco. Oh mate. Oh, don't. Star Wars will be cancelled before we know it, man. It'll be turned into freaking Care Bears. It's
just for Ewok Adventures. We've had a look at our back catalogue, and the only thing we're allowed to show anymore is Ewok Adventures.
Yeah, look, the only thing that's safe for TV is these 3 Ewoks that we had the costumes left for, and a bunch of sheep and goats. That's as far as we can go. The fact that no one will like it means that there will be no follow-ups. It's
because I think what's interesting as well is I think with some other parts of Disney, like for instance the Marvel stuff. I don't know if you watch like Falcon and the Winter Soldier,
No.
but that actually tackles racism, you know, and it tackles the fact that Captain America is perceived as actually a very white, anti, black community. Really, how it was, like, you know, he's like, oh, this is America, this is the whole, and because obviously it's evolved through cinema, and they even talk about like how, oh, no black person would ever be Captain America, and it goes through that struggle of the Falcon becoming Captain America and changing the symbolism of it. And I think it was really cool. I know it was, again, a political piece, but I think it was done quite tastefully, and I think it was pretty cool. So they're actually they're looking at the history of it and tackling it head on. Whereas with this, it's not tackling it head on with Star Wars. It's almost like, oh, we're just going to brush it to one side and change stuff in the background. And
do you think there is anyone out there, like I'm genuinely asking this, anyone out there who's actively going, Slave One?
No, I don't think so.
I'm actually offended by that. I think that just is disgusting. It's called Slave. I just genuinely don't think there's anyone who cares that much.
Well, when you look at the likes of, like you say, the toys that made us and stuff, you look at that. The Kenner, when they had the toy line, they were told literally they wanted to dominate the boys' market. That's what it was. And it was the same with Mattel, with He-Man. It was a boys' market. They'd owned Barbie. They smashed with, Barbie, that was done. They wanted the boys' market. And that is what Star Wars was. I know there's this kind of like stuff, but that's what it originally was. And now it's become everything, which is amazing. And, culture now has made it where people can like whatever they want. And I think that's really, really cool. But that now it seems to be going the opposite way. So like when you've got like Kathleen Kennedy saying the Force is female. No, the Force isn't female. The Force is for everybody. That's the whole point. And when you start putting your own political agendas on stuff, I think it starts to destroy the community that's been built organically from people. I know some of the biggest fans I know of Star Wars are actually, females or even like, people from different ethnic backgrounds that have never been represented properly within Star Wars. And I think that stuff's cool that we're getting that now. But then at the same time, that I never see people that are moaning about the fact that that ship's called Slave One or even Slave Leia to a lot of, older people. I understand it selling it for children now, but it's there. Return of the Jedi is my favorite movie. What are they going to do? They're going to do a new updated version where they put like a green screen over or something. They can't take it out of the movie. It's a movie.
Put a freaking Mac over a trench coat. Cover up, lady.
but it's a movie.
But
and I mean,
if you go and do something where you cover something up, then you're like, well, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to hide? Yeah. You're trying to hide it. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to tell her how she's meant to dress, or you just I feel some. No, look, and I get this.
That is the difference on social media, though, isn't it? A lot of people are saying that. You can't. There's such this because people are saying like, oh, you're now body shaming, or we should be allowed to dress however we want. It is the same thing, and I feel like if you say to someone, no, you can't have that, it makes it even worse. And I think let's just leave it as it is. Like, Mandalorian's new ship, don't call it Slave 2. But the ship that's already there, just leave it. It's baked into history.
Just destroy it. Take it out. If you really want to do something about it, take it out of the storyline. Destroy it, take it out of the storyline.
They brought it back because they knew it was popular.
Exactly.
That set's been released 3 times in 3 years, basically. Exactly.
Maybe it was the goats who didn't like the way they were portrayed on that Ewoks Adventures who were laying all these complaints. I don't know. That would be the only sensible answer here.
like you said earlier, maybe it's me and you, maybe we're too old, but I just really did think that one was silly.
I do wonder, are we those two hecklers from the Muppets sometimes, like, this is where we are. We simply can't.
Maybe. But I feel like sometimes it's appropriate in some ways, and then when it's considered for something else, they consider it not appropriate, which I just feel...
I guess it's where that line is drawn, and maybe that line is so squiggly that it's just really, really hard.
For instance, Disney, like, I know there's been a lot, I don't know if you know much about this, but there's been a lot of uproar with Disney anyway, because they say one thing and do another. So, for instance, they had this very big, colourful thing for the Pride month this month, where they had all the Mickey and Minnie and everything walking across going, oh, everyone's acceptable, we love it. And then it's like, that's absolutely nothing like you act as a company. So, for instance, like in Star Wars, I don't know if you know this, but at the end when they win, there's 2 ladies that kiss at the end. But they removed that for Russia versions of the film and for China versions of the film because they were scared.
Probably as well,
so, you know, they were scared about showing it. Well, then don't put it in the movie. Don't erase it for some people and have it for others. I know there's been an uproar recently with Loki because they're saying that, like, I don't know if you've seen watching Loki, but he referenced the fact that he is bi-curious now. And to me, I just feel like, just don't mention it. We don't have any scenes of Captain America talking about how he loves going out and nailing birds every night. It's just not part of the story.
That's not relevant. It's not. I'm trying to bring it in to appease or, you know,
but they feel like they're shoehorning it in. They're shoehorning it in.
Yeah, it's the subject of the moment type. You know, it's funny. There was something else. I think it might actually be on BBC. I watched iPlayer, and it was called "Do Black Lives Still Matter?" I think it is.
Right. I've seen that advertised. Yeah.
And they were going through some of these really big companies and how they portray themselves. You know, as soon as Pride Month starts, they're up there putting their colours up and going, blah, blah, blah. So these people basically wrote to them, some of these big companies, and say, well, what have you done? Show us your diversity, how's the diversity in your employment and, figures about earnings and all that sort of stuff. And some of them were just literally a facade about, hey, we want to be seen to be doing the right thing, but deep down they're actually doing nothing. It's all jumping on a bandwagon thing.
Well, look. So this comes back to LegoCon again, which we haven't actually mentioned this, which we said we would. I know it's 50 minutes in already. But
LegoCon, yes. Well, you're going to have to fill me in on this, mate. Because
So one of the things I mentioned.
I got up at 4 o'clock. Let me just say this: I got up at 4 o'clock this morning, not to watch that, to watch the Wales football match, the Wales Denmark match, and I quickly checked my phone. I was like, "Oh, LegoCon's on. I better check that." I was like, "Oh no, no!"
It was bad. So I'll quickly break down the LegoCon because if you didn't watch it, if people listening didn't watch it, don't watch it. There's no point. They didn't show anything new. The only thing they did show new was Star Wars sets that had already been leaked, which was what you were talking about. Moff Gideon, Starfighter, Slave One.
I made a video on those sets about 3 weeks ago.
It was ridiculous. They basically hammered home. It was basically a 2-hour Dots advert for the Dots stuff, and they were doing. And basically, they were showing everything you can do at Lego House, as if they were like under their own veil of. You do realize that that's why no one's visiting. It's not to do with the fact they don't want to go. It's the fact that people can't physically go. So why are you advertising?
That's trying to advertise it, like, hurry up, come here, because
it was mental, and it was awful. People who liked it, that's great. I don't know who it was aimed at. It definitely wasn't aimed at me. But during it, they did mention, which again, they already did blogs on it anyway. But they were talking about the new plastic bricks that they're making using plastic bottles. Now, again, to me, I've started putting my pessimistic hat on with Lego because they keep saying that they want to do this stuff for environmental reasons and stuff because obviously they're one of the biggest makers of plastic, so they've got to be seen with that hat on. But they mentioned putting paper bags on sets for 2 years ago? Where's the paper bags?
Never seen them.
They were on about these environmental bioplastics that they were doing with trees and stuff, the green ones. They've been in like 2 sets. I'm sorry, but it's not good enough. It's not good enough. But like I say, when they get hassled or heckled, then they'll all of a sudden say something. And it was really funny because they said lots of our fans have asked us about how we go with the environment. It's like, they're not fans. It's probably pro-environmentalists. It's a completely different.
What are you doing about the ton of plastic you're producing every bloody day? Yeah.
Steph's just popped up.
Hey, Steph.
He's been all right. But yeah, so like I just felt like. To me, I don't know whether they're just doing it, like you say, just to say that they're doing something, or are they actually doing. What do you think as Lego as a company? Do you think they are doing it just to tick boxes, or do you think that they are trying?
I haven't thought too much into it. Well, they certainly don't seem to be trying because I would have done it in a wave, maybe done it. Look, we had, just for an example, you had 5 or 6. I mean, I suppose city's probably quite a big thing. Let's say the botanical sets, the sort of so-called hard-to-find sets that are probably a limited run regardless, because they were off the market for ages because they'd sold out. Yeah. Why not? That would be the perfect place to try that. The whole environmental thing tied in with the whole. I mean, I know they did that with the treehouse, and that's that.
But the treehouse is only select pieces, and again, then
it was just had pieces.
Yeah, but then we've also
I can understand. Yeah, but look, let's say they wanted to try this. Why not try it with the botanical stuff?
Yeah,
because then they can tie it in with the whole environmental thing. Hey, look at these flowers. They're made out of recycled products. Cool, great.
Yeah. Also,
great
the fact
trial.
is, like you're saying, the fact is like, oh, flowers, how beautiful they are. We want to protect the environment. It's almost like that. It would fit perfectly with those.
Why not trial it with something like that, and then people would see that you're trying it. Paper bags, as well, would probably go really well with that as well. Try it all in one thing. Hey, look, if it doesn't work out for you, you've got a really rare set out in the market that people are going to be hunting down forevermore because it was that set that had those bricks in it
100%.
and those paper bags in it. So, make it a collector's thing. I don't care, trial.
It's interesting that you're saying that, though, because also the fact is that the Winnie the Pooh set, the idea set, that didn't have any environmental plastic stuff in it either. And that's a tree. It's the same kind of thing. But they just, we're not going to bother now. It's just,
now that you've made me think about it, I think that they should make more of an effort. There should be look, if they came out, and said 50% of their bricks were made out of recycled products, and that was actually happening, it was a known fact, mate. They would look like freaking angels.
This is another thing that I noticed, because I do look at a lot of this stuff. And I'm always cautious. I try to do the best you can for the environment. But they never actually put any statements out there when they were saying it. They're like, oh, we're going to reduce we clean up so that all our waste is better managed. They never had percentages of which usually you do.
Or dates that they're going to work towards to sort of say.
They have nothing. They have nothing. Like, we've definitely improved. Well, you could... What does that mean? We've recycled one more cardboard box than we did last year. What's the quantify? And
it's an interesting one, because it's the kind of thing that probably in the look. There's gonna the majority of fans are probably not going to be worried either way.
No,
but I dare say that there will be a growing portion of collectors, fans who will go, you know what, they haven't. I'm just buying more and more plastic. I mean, they say that Lego bricks never get thrown out, because they get passed down and all that sort of stuff. I can appreciate that, but they're producing them probably quicker than
at the moment,
down, surely.
And
they
say that, but that's because grandma's got a box of Lego in the attic. Yeah, but look at for that one person. Look at all the people that have dumped it into landfills. There's probably quite a lot. Just because it can be recycled down doesn't mean it is. All my old toys that I used to have, probably most of them are worth a fortune. My mum's probably binned most of them through the years. Didn't save them, That's more of a nostalgic interpretation of it, it's not really probably that factually correct that, people have had. It's just an interesting observation as well. I was it's like, you've mentioned this again now.
It had sort of crossed my mind before, and until you mention it now, I hadn't really thought much more into it, but you're right. They don't give out percentages or time frames that they want to sort of see a percentage of their output, or their product.
It's a little bit like they jump on, because I know, again, going back to the Black Lives Matter thing, I know CafeCon did quite an interesting video on this as well, talking about the representation of black people in Lego. But then their argument, they say, is like, but Lego people are yellow, so they're non-race kind of thing. But that's not true, because if you go back to the old Star Wars sets, Lando Calrissian was the first person they made black. So
and the rest of them were yellow.
Yeah, so that doesn't fit with your narrative that you're pushing.
Well, you go back and you say, look, some idiot had a bad day, and didn't think it through. That goes into the one idiot category. But I don't know. I don't know. There's They do some funny things, and
I mean, I think the thing they have done.
The Danes down as quite a forward-thinking country as well. That sort of part of Europe, the Swedes and Scandinavian sort of part of the world, always have them as quite sort of forward-thinking.
They're also minimalists, though, which Lego definitely isn't. So
well, we aim for it. Minimalist is all on the boot of the car at the moment. That's how minimalist my collection is.
Look how clean the house is. The car outside is just Lego stuffed out of it.
Yeah, look, sweetheart, it's not all over the table today. Yeah, it's because it's in the boot of your car. That's right. It all has to be back in here tomorrow.
But going on to the positives of what I think Lego have been doing well recently in terms of stuff, as the Pride set was great. The Everyone is awesome. I don't know if you picked that set up, or I haven't personally picked it up.
Excuse me. We only had so many units come into the country
Right.
Someone mentioned 60 units, and look, Brian Saviano, you know Brian Saviano,
Yeah.
Bricks O'Brien. I made that video. As you know, everyone is not awesome, and I'm still getting freaking comments both ways on that video. To be honest, it's hugely entertaining. But I made that video, and in that video, I said, "Look, it's a day one thing for me," and it was. I was absolutely committed to getting it day one. I was going to go into the store, but then Brian made the point on a stream at one point where he says, "Look, I'm not going to run out and get it day one, but that's only because I want the people who it means something to have the opportunity to get it first. It means something to me as a Lego collector. I think it's a great thing they've done. It's a great symbol that they've done, but I'm not necessarily part of that community, or someone who would really feel something from this being made. You know what I mean? Like, I 100% support. I think it's one of the coolest things ever that they've done that, and great. But yes, there's people out there who would benefit from getting it day one well before me,
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
I'd build it and I'd put it on the shelf. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it's the same with me. Like I said,
someone who would look at it every day and go, wow,
Yeah.
So
I mean, for me, if I bought it, I think I'd want it mainly for the monochrome figures because they're really cool. But like I said, to me personally, it doesn't resonate with what they're doing. And I think that's awesome for people to get it and, like you say, to be part of something. And I think I want them to do more of that kind of stuff, but maybe look at other things as well that they could do. I don't know what it would be, but I think it's a great one, and I'm hoping that the publicity and stuff for it hasn't pushed them away from thinking, oh, we're not going to do that again because of some of the negative feedback, because I think they're vocal minorities to the majority of people that actually like this set.
The minorities are the ones who pipe up, and look, I'm not going to sit here and promote my own video, but that's even some of the comments. I've sort of given up deleting comments out of it now. I've left a few of them in there just to let people see how stupid some people are, really, to be honest. But some people will have comebacks and they'll try and justify what they said, which was either a homophobic or some sort of comment that they've said, and it's like someone's come on and called them out on it, and then they've come back and tried to say, tried to quantify their own argument, and it's just like, you just make yourself look like an idiot, mate.
Yeah, I think the thing is, if you don't agree with it, just don't buy it. That's
well, I don't agree with typewriters.
No,
I'm not going to sit there and call out every single typewriter and make them feel bad. But you know what I mean? Like, I just like you say, I don't care for it. I have zero interest in it, and I just won't look at it. It just doesn't bother me. It doesn't even make me feel, either way.
I mean, we live in a very confused world at the moment. I think, like, people feel like, I don't know, they have to shout above everyone else to be heard, almost like, oh, if you're not with me, you're against me. It's just, I think
social media is a funny old place. Look,
yeah.
you and I, when we started this, I'm sure we both knew or quickly understood that what we were getting ourselves into. You got to have a certain thickness of skin to put yourself out there on YouTube at our age, if you like, or at any age, I guess. You open yourself up for criticism, whether it's the way you pronounce something, the way you look, the way you whatever, you know what I mean? You put yourself out there, so you've got to learn to deal with it. But what I have learned through making that video specifically, because look, I get the odd crappy comment, but I've never had the barrage of comments that I've had on that both ways. But it's made me realize how much energy people put into hating.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's like, I don't know if it's an age thing and I'm just getting tired with my old age or, whatever it is. But I just can't be asked putting that much effort into hating anyone or something. I just don't have the time.
It was
I feel that my life could be spent doing other things.
Yeah, so I had a similar video that did that went a bit like, which was actually the road plates, when I did the new road plates. Yes. And the amount of hate, like, just aimed at me, not even the road plates, because I liked something that they didn't like. And you just think, man, it's a road, like.
Look, I have more of an understanding for someone who passionately hates those road plates than for someone who passionately hates someone else for how they choose to live their lives. Yes. Do you know what I mean?
Like, I agree with that. Because, like you say, with the road plates one,
look, they might just really do your head in. They're 2 studs too short for that street that you're making, and you've had, that's a reason to hate that. Hating on someone else for the way they look or the way they want to be or whoever they love.
I completely agree. Couldn't agree more on that. Yeah, I completely agree.
All right, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, well, we've agreed on something. Or we've also agreed that we both like Slave One as a name. But
yeah, I'm gutted it's going to be disappearing. Yeah, I'm genuinely
I don't think it will disappear. Well, Kenner released the UCS. So Kenner, not Kenner's. Well, it is Kenner, but they're Vintage Collectors. They released the Slave One last year, and it was called the Slave One. So, like 6 months ago. I really don't get it. It's just weird.
Mate,
I think they need to look at their PR company.
Someone in some boardroom with someone else in some boardroom have had a chat about this and decided that's what's best for all of us. And who are we to bloody argue? Yeah.
Next, it'll be R2D2. Oh, he sounds R-rated. We're not going to call him that anymore. He's just going to be called Robot One.
I genuinely hope that we do this podcast for the next 20. No, I genuinely hope we do this podcast for the next 20 years and just see to what level of grumpiness we get to. I think the direction we're going, at the trajectory we're going, this is going to get ugly pretty soon. We're just going to literally start a podcast up in a couple of years' times and shake our fist for half an hour, and then grunt at each other, and that's it.
I think it will. I think in 20 years it will also make our lives easier if Lego and Star Wars are still a thing, because it'll be so much easier to talk about the sets, because it'll just be a next set we have Luke's starship, next set we have Bob's starship, next set we have Revan's
big starship lasery pointy thing.
But anyways, we still love Lego. We still love.
Just trying to think how they could possibly be offended by stormtroopers, Probably offended that they can't shoot or something, don't you?
Well, that's another thing. We're talking about guns in Lego. Like, I know they say we can't have Western back, or they can't do soldier sets because of guns. But then they did it for Indiana Jones because it was an intellectual product that they were allowed to make. And then also, like, Star Wars has guns, so they'll change their tune if it matches their more popular set.
Some designer came up with a bomb factory for this flagship city set. Oh. Come on.
With a giant dynamite on the top.
That's the level of intelligence. Like, there's someone up there who must be pulling their hair out going, but think of the children, that type of person. Whereas,
to be fair with that set,
it's like a bomb factory.
Yeah. But to be fair to that set, to be fair to the designer of that set as well, A, the set actually looked quite good. B, it went through more than just the designer. It got into magazines. So that's not one guy. That's the person that was looking at City as a whole, because they actually made the set. It was in the whole set with all of them. So it got to some point where, it's the same with that. What was the helicopter that came out? They literally went to market and then they banned it. The one, the Technic set.
The Osprey.
Yeah, the Osprey. There you go. My mind went numb. But like, that actually gone through so many people until someone said something, and actually no, we better change it, because
obviously, look, it probably got through all these people, and then someone at the end goes, "Damn it, it got this far. We better chuck some orange bits on it so it looks like a rescue thing."
Oh, potentially.
I'm gonna try and save this. What can I do? What can I do here?
They should just change the name of it. Just called it something else. Just rescue ship or something. Rescue they did it with Slave One.
They should have called it the twin prop rescue starship or something. The orange and grey starship. That's what they should have called it.
Anyways, we've been going for over an hour. So, if anyone actually does stay to the end of these, thank you so much for listening to us ramble on. And let us know if we're completely in the wrong as well, We are these people that actually, we understand that other people have opinions, and that's okay. So, if there's any comments in the comment section that, we could look at for next week and actually maybe discuss it as well, if there's people that do disagree with the Slave One. Like you say, we might just be both on the same wavelength, which is completely wrong. So, you know, we don't mind. We get schooled. Rich has even got a set part of this usually at the beginning that talks about all his mistakes he made from last week.
I don't think we made any mistakes last week. We didn't talk about it at the beginning of this one, so we couldn't have made any mistakes.
So, you know, we're happy to know when we're wrong.
You asked me to, Captain EO or whatever it was called.
Oh, yeah. Did you watch it?
Final word on this. Awful. Purely awful.
Hey.
Cheers, guys.
I'm allowed to like it, okay? I'm allowed.
It's more about you than it does about me, Sunshine.
Anyways, thank you all for watching, guys. We'll catch you in next week's one. Bye.